different type of
It doesn't really say.
choices that you choose. One goes more coverage, one has a little. Obviously, the green's better.
Well, yeah.
Both of these say conventional analog at 200, but then there's 400 Minotaur. So I mean, is that one represent one,
Well,
represent the other?
different
One of
styles.
these is for the infrastructure, I think, and then this is for just the pager.
Oh,
So
yeah, infrastructure.
we're looking at 310,000. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But there was supposed to. Bill actually texted me while we were in a meeting and said that the trade-in from Motorola.
That's a big
So,
difference.
yeah.
That makes a little bit more
Ready?
sense.
Yeah.
We're here.
Yeah. All right.
Make a motion to come
Hey,
out
you
of
got this
executive
one
session.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just texted me.
We're done. We don't have to act on that. All right, we got a motion by Mr. Marr to come out of executive session. Second by Mr. Cross. All in favor say aye. Ayes have it.
My point
Okay,
is
the
you
red
better
lights
tell
for
it.
David, Ruth. Red and white lights. Him getting them. So, can you take care of that?
What does
Thank
he need
you.
lights for? Yeah. What is it? In favor of what? We're all in favor of what?
Red and white lights for the corner.
But I guess my. Okay, but I mean, I guess my thing is, why does he need to respond with lights?
It's because the scene is on lockdown, so they can't do anything until he gets there if it's a casualty.
On
And you got-
some cases, but I mean, I guess my point is,
People start not.
Yeah, but if you're, if like, I think if you got like
It wasn't a
An
big enough
accident
issue for
somewhere.
me to, you know.
accident somewhere, you kinda have to, you want him to try to get through because that is the accident.
Well, police may not know who it is, but right.
Well, I mean, the person behind you is not gonna see, oh God,
he's
this is
got lights
hard.
now. He just doesn't have the right colors, right?
No.
Yeah, he's got green and white lights now. He just don't have the right colors.
He said he had
just wanna
toys.
change
He wants.
colors.
Yeah.
Boys and their toys.
No doubt. I really didn't.
Siren too.
I told him as long as the sheriff wanted it, I was fine
I'm
with
with
it.
you. Whatever the sheriff
So-
says, I'm good.
And the sheriff said he wanted him to do it, so
I don't think
okay.
you can have a siren.
No, he was
If you-
joking
if
about
you-
that.
No, if you're
Oh.
gonna run lights, you
All
have
right,
to have
guys,
an
I'm getting
automobile
hungry.
light.
Somebody's been
All
cooking
right.
something in
You
here.
can't run
Work
lights
its
without
way
one.
in here.
Okay.
According to the statute.
Any statements about our assistant road manager? Or we leave it open, not do anything until
Well,
a few days?
There's nothing there's nothing formal
Okay.
about you
All
classifying it one way or the other. You are comfortable with us doing so.
Yes.
All right. Ambulance contract.
We've decided to start all over, Brian.
Okay.
We're
Let's do it.
gonna initiate the $1 million laying around somewhere to kind of get that ball rolling.
Well, I figure if we keep going, we're
Gonna
gonna
ask
be
for a
there.
raise
We're
as
headed that
well.
route, huh?
Yeah. So I know that we have some items that was left off the contract that I think are going to be 100% a necessity.
Yeah, I
One being
believe so.
the online med control through Central Mississippi something.
Well, there's
What's
what
that?
to do, and I got the letter from Chief Welber, and he gave me a copy of it as well. It's just for somebody to be local. It doesn't necessarily have to be UMC. There's another group, Central Mississippi Protocol. that-
Yeah.
If they were hoping to have something by April 15th on that, you have that in place, that med control. They would
Yeah.
CMC, so Barrett.
And the
whatever.
chiefs are okay with that. If
So
we
that's
go-
gonna
if we
be
go to
one.
If we go to the Central Mississippi Protocol, that's good too.
Okay. Another is the ALS
The
to 911
BLS
calls.
unit, ALS unit. And what they have told us in the past that they're going to send an ALS unit.
We
to
need
the
that in
calls.
contract.
Well, it's in there.
However, there is a
Thought their
certain
last one.
The way I read the
25
contract
says
at
all
one
ALS
particular
comes on all
time,
911
it
calls.
said that there
Exact
is a
same.
possibility that there may and worse to the call, and the stick that some of the chiefs have with it have paramedics is, even in worst case scenario, they don't want a basic truck showing up if they have a paramedic already on one light, is because that basic truck can't transport from the scene.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Here's my only thing on that with the basic truck. The way I read it is, and Craig, you can maybe interpret it a little bit, but an ALS truck is already en route. All 911 calls get an ALS response in the discussion. But if a BLS truck is across the street,
They'll stop. if
they'll
there's
go
still
help.
one
But a
coming.
911 BLS truck is giving basic care until an ALS truck arrives. It's not going to prohibit the ALS truck from coming.
Okay.
So the ALS is coming, but the BLS truck, even by law, has to respond, has to take action to render aid.
Are we going
to
to
those
allow that
people.
to stop the time clock?
It does not stop the time
That's
clock.
what we
Absolutely
say,
not.
right,
The ALS
right,
truck
yeah.
controls the watch.
The other thing was the time clock. And that was something
The
that,
language
and
changed
Yeah.
from the first to the second.
It's
I don't know
different.
what drove that.
Even
but
from their own words.
Yeah,
they
me either.
changed it.
Yeah.
it's
yeah, so we need that reverted back to where it was.
Yeah, and it's paragraph 48. Steve did a good job of going through paragraph by paragraph, so I think some of you guys will be able to remember by
Yeah.
paragraph number what we're talking
I got
about
it.
here.
Not me.
It's from Pafford's computer-aided dispatch system to Rankin County's.
Okay,
That's what we're asking, that we be able to control the time clock.
all right.
And the clock should start when we call Pafford and say we need an ambulance to
That's
where.
right.
Yeah.
That's when the clock should be.
And my apology, but give me the times again, Brian, that we've agreed upon as far as the contract times,
Yeah.
15 and 35, is that what it?
District 1, which is your there, is 15. That's the main numbers coming through.
It's a max time.
Yes, max of 15. District 2, which is I-20 and north, will have and same for District 3, which is the south. The reason they're split is so that we can compare north side to north side calls, south side to south
You're
side.
talking about down around
But
Bucket.
I talked to the guys up in Lake Harbor. This was the issue there, and it's a valid point that because of the lesser call volume, closer out in the county, or further out in the county, that time chart gets skewed based on, say for example, just outside of that District 1 area, higher call volume plays in that 90% call factor. So that was the discussion we had to the more rural areas
Well-
to fix that time.
By drawing a line down I-20, it makes my half of the county, or rural part of the county, and then Bob's part only competes against that urban area right on his half of the county, which means that instead of 100% of the time, people at Lake Harbor, maybe only 50% of the time we will now. But I mean, I think this new group is probably going to be a little more efficient than the old group.
Do you
that
think
got
you think the new lines are better?
I like I mean, I can live with the I-20 split.
All right.
My question
I think
being-
they
my-
put that in there, too,
Hey,
didn't
hey, hey,
Yeah.
hey, hey.
they?
My
They did
que-
put it in there.
Okay. My question is, do we have the option in 6 months,
I have put blank lines.
We
in that
actually
section
shook
of the
hands on
contract.
1 year, right
I want to
here.
know, do we have the option to come back in 6 months, or if we do a 4-year contract, whatever, multi-year contract, we'll come back in a
Right.
year's time
Yeah.
to read the time?
Because we've got no measurable data on what the true runs
That's right.
are. I mean, we will after this little.
Well, in
spurt.
this contract, it says that it will be revisited
Okay.
every 6 months.
That's it? Okay.
But I don't want to make.
Well, you wanna do that
I
one?
would-
There was a
That would be
meeting here
best.
we had with them, and Greg Pafford suggested 6 months, come back, and if they need to start charging a subsidy, they would. Well, we said, if you're gonna do that, let's do a year contract.
Well, we cover all
And then
seasons.
that way, you come back and show us where it's, not doable, and then we can have the option, to go out for RFP or do our level of service, we're gonna start pony up money. So, but that's different than what they presented us.
Right.
They
And he
presented
sure-
us with a
he said he would do
4-year
that.
contract, and them being able to adjust it every 6 months had nothing.
In the
So
room
it's
when he
clear,
said that.
in this most recent
Yeah.
He
Pafford
wouldn't, did he?
revision,
All right.
there is no specific language about revisiting anything in 6 months.
Really?
We will need to make sure that
I
we
thought you said-
really look
And
over it.
again, they verbally said that they
Yeah.
were going to revisit it 6 months to a year based on how we wanted to put that. I mean, I've heard that twice myself.
But we need to make sure.
Well, if it's not in the
Absolutely.
contract, then
It don't matter.
Yeah.
I'm
It
with
needs
you.
to be in there.
I agree with you.
Question, we talk about placement of buses. I know that the contracts obligate one in Pearl and one in Brandon, right? We got a total of 7.5 for the county, right?
Their
Why were you
contracts,
looking at
Brandon and Pearl,
So my question is, and I think Daniel has alluded to this at some point, we have the ability, they have the ability to move and reshuffle based after 90 days or 6 months, whatever, we go through and say, okay, ease maybe towards the Monterey area, and
Well, again,
station
they're
there.
going to move them based on meeting those times.
Times,
Meeting
right.
their time volume.
But
call volume.
but we have that option to have that discussion.
That's my
as-
understanding.
As well, or,
Well,
We're just giving the time.
they're running their own
Right.
ship, as long as they meet their times.
Okay,
we're good. But
okay.
the only thing I'm
That's
concerned
yeah.
about that is what you told me about them moving them around. I don't want to end up in the same situation where an AMR, where they send them all over Madison County.
Well, the difference is the wording is dedicated trucks to a fluid system that AMR has. They're dedicating these trucks in Rankin County. The current contract we have now doesn't dedicate trucks to our.
Although it doesn't specifically identify locations for staging, they tell you in here that they want to put one in Florence Richland. And the reason they're telling us that is because they're expecting to.
Yeah.
Right, they're going to put one at Reservoir. They want Reservoir to make the space available for them to stage there. So there are some, there's some teeth in here suggesting specific locations.
So
Florence and Richland have always made available sites, always.
Does it mention Pelahatchie?
No, it does not.
And that was something I was gonna bring up, needed, if we provide a substation for them, are we not putting money into them being right here?
But now,
And then
but
6 months later, then.
Well, having said that though, Pelahatchie, Carl Van Horn and them mentioned that station area, whatever, for a substation for that, based on the data we can collect over the next 6 months, year.
Well, what we
whatever time.
talked about our last meeting with them was that they may, can put one there since they got one that they could house in Pelahatchie at least, if nothing else, during the night, you know, just for looks, if nothing else.
Well, I mean,
They're not,
But obviously
they're not
they
contracted.
didn't. They
and
didn't.
again,
It may be an advantage to them, but I realize that if they've got a call in Brandon and it's 9 miles, and these over here are all tied up with some wreck, that they're gonna run over there from Pelahatchie.
right.
And I mean, I just like that.
So you're
Maybe
not gonna be
they-
stuck on Pelahatchie then?
Not as much as I was, no.
Okay.
I mean, I understand that if they're making my calls in 30 minutes, I don't care if they're coming from Pelahatchie or Pearl, as long as they're picking up somebody.
Let's get settled the contract. How do we want the contract to be turned to be done? Do we even want to bring it up in a year if we got our 7? I mean, do we want to
Yeah.
make that an
We need
issue?
With the option of continuing for 3 more.
Well, I think that's the best way to handle it, would be that the county has the option to revisit, it's not required to, and if we don't, the contract continues.
Well,
Asking for, do we want to force it?
they're going to. I can assure
That's
you.
what I'm saying, but it's not in there currently.
Well, when we
No,
put it in there though, they
I don't
probably.
think
desires.
that they intend to revisit this in 6 months. I mean, I don't know, I thought it was, that I read it in there, and it may have been just what they
I
talked
think
so
we need,
much.
I think we need to have a longer contract. Yeah, I think we have to have a discussion maybe in 6 months about where the numbers are for potential renegotiation if needed.
That needs to be our contract term.
Well, I'm just saying, if we've asked AMR to give us essentially a year's notice to terminate a contract. And if we can see, it takes us time
Yeah.
to work through this process, RFP or whatever. So there has to be an ample number of time for everybody to do what they need to do, right?
Right.
I mean, we just got to figure out what's that best time. Is it a 2-year contract, and let's visit in 1 year with option,
Right.
you know? I don't know.
But their committee letter is in place. That's in the agreement here, and I think that's not just their corporate policy. I think that is also compliant with, as I appreciate, emergency response
the ethical side.
protocol. They can't just walk off. Once they sign the contract, they're with us. And if 6 months down the road, Bob, nobody's happy, then if it takes us, Pafford will be along for the ride for that remaining. And it's in the contract as such. Now, they're going to be paid
Sure.
whatever they're entitled to, assuming that there is anything. But that's through what I like to call the big rocks. These are the big issues that need to be addressed that to this point have not been clarified by Pafford yet. We don't have a meeting of the minds on, okay? And these come from both the chiefs, Steve's review, you guys review and comment, Brian and I talking back and forth, you know, a product of the discussions that we've had to quickly walk through. I'll quickly walk through them, all right? The contract term we've already talked about. That's a biggie.
But we still don't know, where are we at consensus? Where's our consensus? What do we want?
Let it-
One first.
Yeah, I mean,
All right.
I'm for the 1 year, looking at it.
So you want to do a 1-year contract, or are we just going to do a 4-year contract with the option of 1 year, let them come back and
Whatever the
charge the
wording needs to
subsidy?
say, to where we can evaluate it after the 1 year process, or 6 month process, whatever time frame.
I think that their 4-year is somewhat stuck around financing
It is.
and
It
things
is.
like that. With-
Yeah.
Which
They gotta
is
take
why-
that to the bank and they can borrow money on that 4 years, where a 1 year, if it was just a flat 1 year. But if we did a 4-year contract with at the end of a year, we both sides can
Right.
negotiate. And I think all of us agree that if these guys are doing their job and meeting the times and providing the service, and they can show us with their call value that they're losing money, they've had to bring a hand up and either vote for a raise or we're going to put in our own ambulance service. Because they're not going to be here. And I think that we'll be fair if they'll be fair.
So you think ultimately they will want that ambulance, that they'll have the opportunity?
Yes, sir. I think
Well,
so.
they just didn't do it this time, so.
They need that.
But
yeah.
neither did
They
we.
need it. They need it.
When they see ours.
Because they don't have any
Absolutely.
numbers. We can't, from what I'm understanding,
Guess
we really
y'all aren't
can't
as
give them
slowed down
real
as I
numbers.
am. You know,
Right.
I can get
They're only
if I
guessing.
get
That's right. There's no hard data
Yeah.
on what's really happening.
But at the end
Okay,
of
so
the
we're gonna
day,
give them, we're gonna do the 1 year?
Well, it's a
We're gonna
4-year
forward-
contract.
4-year
Contract,
contract.
after a year, we
and reevaluate 1 year,
evaluate.
okay. That was
so
that.
to lock them down for 4 years so that if it's a really bad deal for them, they're stuck. The problem with that is if it's a really bad deal and they're stuck, they're gonna go.
Yeah,
Breach.
They're
that's
gonna
right.
breach and
And we still got
They're
an
in the
out,
same
right?
spot.
Out, if we so desire.
Yes, sir. There is a significant amount, it's probably an entire page of this document that addresses what I call fault provisions, where fault under the agreement.
Okay.
And that's really no different than the AMR agreement we have right now.
All right, so we got a consensus on that. Let's move on.
All right, 4-year with 1 year, 1 year look option.
Evaluation, yeah.
Okay.
All right. The next thing has to do, and they've agreed to the splitting of the districts into, instead of just 2 districts, it'll be 3. They've agreed to that based on comments that I have heard about my district is going to end up being 100% of the time in that 10% of the equation. Have consistently suggested a provision that reads, the ambulance response times for districts 2 and 3, these are our 2 rural areas, shall not exceed 45 minutes under any circumstance. Is that what, do we keep that in or
Because they ain't
not?
gonna do it.
Not 45.
No,
I mean,
nobody agreed on
we at the
100%.
point in time now where we are either going to accept the contract or we going to go out for bids. And I think they're not going to do that.
What? Do which part?
Saying cap at 45 every single time. I don't think you.
Well, you want to give them, you want
Yeah.
to give them an hour?
No,
They
I don't
still
think you
have
say
the
every
exemptions.
single week.
No,
Those
they-
exceptions are adverse weather, that's really bad weather events, excessive traffic due to inbound or outbound accidents that impede, thoroughfare crossings blocked by trains, mass casualty incident, I'm going to come back to that in just a second, and then right now they have suggested excessive ER wait times. We've consistently said we don't want that in there, so I have, get out, they put it back.
Yep.
So we need to know, are we going to camp out and say we're not going to let you have excessive ER wait times as an exemption to your runtime?
They
They don't
used
have-
that as an excuse in the
don't have-
past. AMRs always was an accident, or they call it
I see
training.
both sides of it.
Yeah.
I see where there is a problem at St. Dominic's and Baptist where they do get stuck on the wall. However, Brandon and Pafford's contract,
Because they have that other addendum to where if they get an overload, they carry them to the local hospital and they don't allow one to go out. So there's no need for that.
I think that scenario,
It
they
is.
can drop them off at
It's in ours as well.
Crossgates.
Okay.
Worst case
Is that a
scenario.
mandatory we're going to do?
I'm just saying it's in there. I read that too.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's in the Brandon, and
If we did that, then there really wouldn't be,
Hmm.
unless it was an,
The deal with the
It's-
excessive
it's-
ER
shouldn't
time, that's gonna be
matter.
hard to validate.
well, is this something we're going to draw a line in the sand on? And
what is interesting to me is that in our initial discussions with Pafford, it was never in the mix, because that, as I understand it, unless I'm just, that is in the Brandon or Pearl contract.
Right. It's not in there.
All
Have you
right?
gotten a hold of Madison County's contract yet?
Yeah, we do have a copy of that.
Yeah,
You
unless
got it
something
with
was
you?
changed.
Saying, that's something you can come back and revisit
Yeah.
in 1 year interval.
I agree. I don't think it's a line in the sand either, because at the end of the day, they know they're wanting to clear that hospital as fast as they can to make their other times.
so we're going to eliminate that as
I don't
an
think it's,
exception.
I don't think it's a line in the sand. I think it's an issue, but I don't
Well,
think it's just a
what I'm thinking
deal
is, y'all,
killer.
we're going to come out of here with a
I
document that we need to get
Yeah, I
approved.
just don't think it's a deal killer. I mean,
I'm
they give-
all for doing that. Let's move on. I mean,
Okay.
I'm gonna
Okay.
say, if they're using this as,
We'll catch
revisit
it. We'll
and
catch
say,
it.
well, we're not going with this anymore because
All right.
we have no way to police it.
Yeah.
And you used it 15 times last 6 months.
We'll know how many times
All
it
right.
is, that's right.
Okay.
At each opportunity throughout the LS unit, serve as the primary or singular response to any emergency call. That is the
clear.
clarifying
Yeah, that's right.
language that
Okay.
makes it clear.
Yeah.
You can respond, go to that call.
That's right.
But
It's
that's
gotta
not
be
gonna
LS.
stop your time.
Doesn't stop the time.
Okay.
Clock runs.
All right.
Hey, hang on before we go too far. On that other deal, are they gonna be reporting to us, their wait times then? Are we gonna get some kind of log?
Probably only if it causes an exception.
If it
Okay.
causes an exception,
All
if it
right.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But if they tell me, yeah, we were stuck at Baptist for 25 minutes, I'm gonna have to say, okay.
Okay.
There's really no way to.
Help us with this next item that Steve raised, which is, and this is how it's been working with AMR. When they go to a scene and there's a response, and the fire trucks are there and already on scene, and they're delivering care, they're using supplies while they're doing that. We contractually, the ambulance services is responsible for resupplying the volunteer and paid departments with. Well, how does that work when the ALS unit has gone to the hospital? How do we enforce and make sure that the resupply activity is going to happen?
Historically, what should happen, and I think most of our departments know this, is that if they use something on that call, they ask for the truck to replace it when they're there. For example, if they use a non-rebreather mask, they'll say, hey, I need a non-rebreather off your truck. The ambulance service within whatever type of device they use, it was on the truck, they get it to them. If they don't have it on the truck, they'll get something en route from their staging area and restock that department if they don't have it on their truck.
So during the heat of the,
Do now. I mean, that's how it works now.
All right. Steve, are you comfortable with that? Just letting it operate? Our guys out in the field know how to do it with AMR. I would assume they try to do it the same way.
Whatever they use.
But does Pafford allow for that, or?
Yes.
It's
in there.
identical language in
Okay.
that it says,
okay, if it's in.
at no cost to the county, Pafford has to resupply. Now, logistically, I'm just not sure
Okay.
how that will.
All right.
Do you agree, Brian?
Yeah. Obviously, we've already talked about the offline, online med control issue. The language that I use, Brian, help me here, is that the online and offline med control shall be handled by a service provider physically located within the Central Mississippi EMS District. Okay? And approved by the EMS Corps. Who they have to use, but they have to fit within that description. Physically located, approved by Brian.
Okay.
Okay?
At one time, did they use UMC, or, is
Yeah,
there?
UMC.
Is there a reason for us trying to micromanage and say, because I could
Oh,
see.
we can
reason
enforce
to do
it.
it.
I think the problem-
Political reasons to do it, but there's no good reason to do it.
Central doctor's local, and as long as they're willing to do that, everybody's gonna be happy.
Yeah, when the thing was coming out UMC, that was just because of the current way Pafford does it was on the coast. They have a doctor on the coast at Singing River Hospital. At Jessen, we want somebody local.
And the local crews are basically on the same page.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So I think that was the one thing.
That'd be a
you
line
know.
in the sand deal.
And also
I agree.
with going that Central Mississippi protocol, it allowed for third-party oversight, and which was what some of the chiefs were wanting to, that at least Packer would have somebody kind of making.
By having Brian involved in essentially approving their med control under the contract, then if at some point during the term of the contract it's becoming unworkable, Brian can step in and say, we need to revisit who it is that's handling med control.
Okay.
So that's the way
It gives us a seat at the table.
it's basically that's the way that you would handle that, was just through the language of the contract. I don't know anything else to call it other than what I've heard, Life Flight, which is air ambulance service provider. I understand that Pafford has a air life, how active it is in this area at this stage. The question has been raised at the chief's level. If I'm neck deep in a bad situation, am I going to be required to only call for, or can I call anybody that's available that could provide that service? We've asked multiple times for clarification, and each time we don't get any clarification. So I've asked once again, clarify whether to be the exclusive provider for Lifeline.
How about you just go ahead and put in the language that we have the right to use whoever we want to use. And
I
just
think,
let them
I like
respond to
that better too.
That's what needs to
Yeah.
happen. They need to be able to call
I wouldn't
whoever
give them
they
an
choose.
option to clarify, I just put in there.
All right.
Well, can
I
we?
mean, if they catch this YouTube video before we get it back to them anyway, it's gonna be a moot point, you know?
And probably can tomorrow.
if I mean, you don't carry, and then if they're not available, we roll to the next.
I think that's practically how it would work,
The
Steve.
dispatch protocol should say that.
I would,
I think that's
because if we
practically
just
how
put
it's
in there,
going
we
to
can
work.
call anybody.
Well, no, it needs to go
They're
through a protocol.
Clarksdales,
after
they're-
EMSOFF.
Now, but once they get
will
Madison,
be.
us, and then Simpson, it may be an issue.
How I'm
It
gonna
could be
They're
though.
trying to, they're talking.
Well, it could be though, when they get here and these folks learn them, it may be a moot point, you know?
How I'm going to handle that is where it talks about life flight. I'm going to say there's nothing in the paragraph is intended to indicate that Pafford is the sole and exclusive provider of air ambulance service. That leaves us with the flexibility
Yep.
to say, well, you're not exclusive and you weren't handy right there at that moment, or I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
We'll have the flexibility to call if we need to call. Okay. Let me. I'm going to move past EMSOF and go to the other stuff, and then we'll come back to that. Okay. Because I think I can get through the rest of it real quickly. I don't want to get stuck on EMSOF stuff.
All right.
The chiefs have consistently, Brian as well, have consistently wanted to know, itemize and show us what classes you're offering to our EMTs and our paramedics. And that attachment was not give us. They need to give us their listing of classes that are going to be offered. We've already talked about Rankin County controlling the clock. That's a big deal. That's in here. The remaining big thing. The last big thing before we go back to EMSOF is we're still waiting on penalty provisions to be inserted in the contract.
Right.
And,
That was
and
another-
verbally, and I hadn't seen it in the writing of it. Obviously, it wasn't in this one here, but they verbally agreed to the same penalty sections that are set up for Brandon.
Brandon,
Do we have a copy of that?
we did.
Why don't we just get it and add it to ours?
What it may.
Matter of fact, do we have the attachment for those classes?
No, sir.
No, nobody's gotten it.
Okay.
No, sir.
I emailed Keith personally.
No other jurisdiction has been interested enough to know about the class list to
Yeah.
ask for it.
All right.
We're the first ones, as far as I know, the
And
first
that's
one
when
to
I talked
ask
to some
for
of the
it.
Brandon medics and stuff. They said that was one of the downfalls.
Well, I'd just go and add the penalty then.
Continue
Okay.
in.
It's whatever,
We will add
the same as
penalty.
what Brandon and Pearl
Yeah.
is running.
And what is the penalties?
I don't know off the top of my head. It's
$250 per
$250
call
so
that they miss
they
outside
miss
that
the number.
90%.
And that number could add up.
And
I
they
mean,
do it monthly.
All right, now EMS for our fire personnel. As I appreciate the language, which if you're interested is paragraph 26 of the document that y'all have all been provided. It appears that they will take possession of all EMSOF funding, and they will also have complete control over anything purchased with those funds or combined utilization, them and the first responders on our side. And then the language is broadly drafted enough to where an argument can be made. Equipment now in the possession of the volunteer and paid departments that was purchased with the MSOF dollars would be available to Pafford at their discretion.
It also goes further to say future.
Well,
Right.
yes, sir. I think
That's what
implicit
it
is
covers
that
that, yeah.
they're going to be in control of what
No, but
future
even if
equipment.
they didn't have the contract, the way that, if you just read it verbatim, I would want some of that too.
Right. Now, I think it's arguable as to whether or not they could claim ownership, Steve.
I understand.
I think
I don't think they do.
I think it comes down to the right to utilize the
Yeah, and
equipment.
the one good thing that it doesn't say in the contract, but it does when you're dealing with those funds, it has to be used in the county in which the funds were provided for. So that kind of comes back around the
does.
scope of saying
It does.
you may come back and get it, but you still got to use it in Rankin County. So that
Well, why would why would we need even, I mean, really, why would we even need to go along with
this thing that's out there. For example, when you talk about existing equipment that's there, for example, the monitors and stuff that fund has bought and put out throughout the, if
Right.
they're using that equipment, I don't want it taken from them.
So we just need to put in the contract
for
as
example,
of contract
the-
for.
But what
I'll
about
write-
the new stuff coming in?
Well, I mean, that's.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying, that, I don't see why they, that's what this is saying.
Here's another one that's out there. The elephant in the room on that same side is the $50,000 Dodge truck we brought out of that fund. That goes to Pat, under the wording of this agreement.
Yep.
So Craig,
If you're looking at it being prospective, meaning for the purposes from the date of the contract forward,
Yeah, right.
then I think this discussion makes complete sense to me. They would not have any sort of connection to nor rights with respect
Previous
to
equipment
equipment
we
that is
bought.
already in existence in the county now.
yeah.
That's off limits necessarily, unless the
And on top of
departments
that, they don't
themselves.
know what we use the MSOF for.
It's on the
EMS.
state EMS website.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
They got a list of it, and all everybody else.
Wow, okay.
so
Bring all your stuff in, here's an itemized list.
And we can-
So if
Check
the
this off.
departments, if the departments are okay, everything's going smoothly, if they're okay with giving Pafford access, they're actually obligated to do so.
Yep.
So I guess I'm just trying to make sure I'm.
So there was a lot of talk before about all these other things you were naming off, Wilson's and other things.
Different kind of medical devices
Yeah,
that fund
yeah.
has bought and put
In
into
the
the
past.
hands of our
Right.
fire department.
So we're
That's
not
right.
gonna if we want any more of those, it's gonna be on the county's dime.
Correct.
And training.
But, and you're not.
They've said they will.
In here, they said they would do 3 EMT scholarships and a paramedic scholarship.
Hey, and what- and
But
they-
a lot of
they-
your volunteers are first responders. They didn't say anything about, that might be on attachment
On
too.
the attachment, right,
Yeah.
that we didn't get.
Use that fund to pay that, because there's only certain things you can use it for.
Well,
they've
I mean,
told
we
us.
said before that we realized that we may end up having to subsidize $40,000 or $50,000 cheap subsidy
Yeah.
if we're funding our people, if we're having to fund what they're taking away.
If-
And it's just, it's a subsidy to
Yeah,
them.
I know me and you talked about this, so when we get in that budget process, we could allocate a certain.
We can- Well,
Works for me.
or either.
But the
roads
training
or-
classes still need to, they are gonna be in there.
They don't
Yeah,
get
and
it.
they may be on that attachment too
Report.
that's floating out there that we hadn't seen. They may be on that, it may not.
Okay.
We could use fire funds.
That should be covered in
House
that.
to use it, which we can't go through.
Right, with the EMSOF, there's a lot of restraints and leashes on how you use it and everything, and if
Well,
gonna
we're
do
about
it
to
this
lose
way-
all that, sounds like,
Right.
so.
Well, and let's
it's gone
don't,
now.
it's necessarily a bad
And-
thing
and rem-
because of all those
Well, and
restrictions.
remember though, the way that money comes down, they're still dedicated to use that in Rankin County.
That's
I mean,
right.
that can't go anywhere else, based
Our caller that day, he said he could buy 12 stretchers for that money.
We can, but to be used in Rankin County. And if we need 12 stretchers in Rankin County,
Yeah.
Yeah,
About
but
12
how do we
years.
govern that if they really spend it here?
That's right.
well, they have to,
So-
we can put a wording in there that they've got to give us a detailed description
I mean,
maybe.
that's what I'm
Yeah, I
looking
agree
at.
with you, to say, hey, show us your expenditures and where you put this money back into the county. I mean, that's a simple wording thing. You know.
Well, it
The
need
law's
to be,
not-
otherwise,
Yeah, so I just want to make sure, I'm not against giving them the EMSOF funds. I just want y'all to know, y'all, in the past, we've created this trail of a funding stream for equipment and training that would
it's
probably.
really important. I mean, I've heard them, that's one thing they complained about before, is that some of the training were taken away from them.
That's because we bought a $50,000 truck, obviously.
Could be.
I know.
2 or 3 years ago.
Statutes run on that.
All right, so what I'm adding then is a line to this paragraph 26 that discusses EMSOF, that Pafford must give Rankin County a detailed listing of all equipment, supplies, inventory, et cetera, that are purchased with any allocation of EMSOF funds
And you're gonna word it.
from the date of the contract forward prospectively,
Okay.
forward.
All right. All right.
All right. I think that, did I miss anything, Steve, that you?
I'm running through here,
80,000, all I need.
let's see, you covered the penalty.
I'd say
It was,
he
it was
he
60,
won't over there.
it was 60 about a week ago. It was 60 about a week ago.
60 a week.
60 a week ago.
And you're communicating with them, it's our intent to take action on the 15th, you make sure to convey
Yes.
that to them.
I had
so-
an email from Mr. Carter this morning to me.
See, before Brandon and Pearl went out, it was 80,000.
Hey,
But-
one question that wasn't there
When
that
they form-
ain't your answer. These numbers we're getting here, the number of buses, trucks,
All contract.
The number seven, the magic number of seven minimum is including Brandon and Pearl's trucks.
So we just prepared, we wanted to take
everything.
that.
Did
So
you
like-
hear that?
Yep.
Like right now, I know we keep saying Pearl and Brandon have a minimum, and that number can change on a daily or whatever. So that's included in the seven.
I know.
Well, yeah, Steve had a good point. How many trucks they put in,
Half, again, as many, I mean.
right.
50% more population.
Right.
So more.
So you
50.
figure the numbers.
We have 100, we have 150.
That's
That's
We
50%.
got 150, they got around 100.
75,000.
50% times 100 is 50,000, Bob.
Move on.
It's lunchtime.
Okay, Craig, what was you saying?
Yeah, Mr. Carter's message to me this morning was asking about working out a schedule here. And any questions that arise, please forward to me and I will answer and address our plan. If it's appropriate to me, email all of the supervisors, let me know. Thanks, and we look forward to this before the 15th.
Okay.
All
There's
right,
one
Brian,
thing.
you, everything that we're going through, this is all stuff that you feel like the chiefs and all, they're good with this. We're not
Just the
gonna,
stuff that we've mentioned, that we
Right.
mentioned today or whatever,
okay,
a lot of it came from them.
right.
And
That's
I
what-
think it all drives back to having that zero subsidy, Jerry. If we were willing to spend $500,000, that would, it may be tickle pink for us to go out and put a $500,000 on
understand
the
that,
table
but-
to give another bus somewhere, maybe in the rural areas. But
I mean,
we're gonna see.
Between
You
the
know.
choir on that one, I'm just saying, I just want to make sure that we covering things that they want, and then we don't.
Right.
They-
We're not covering
About 2
it.
weeks ago, we sat down with them, and that's where a lot of the notes.
And
The
the
volunteers
outer lined area
are
as far as
happy
Star
with
and
this.
Clear Branch and all, that's gonna be covered. I mean, when you say Star,
One more
Richmond and
thing.
Florence,
Yeah.
I mean, that's gonna be covering the deep part, Myers Road. et cetera.
Logistically, so that you guys have a little bit of extra information as you go out into, he doesn't have any volunteer departments, but you guys that are having to deal with the volunteer departments, you need to understand that the way that this has worked up to this point is we have a group of chiefs who were selected by their own coverage areas, and the men in those coverage areas identified these gentlemen. That's about 6 or 8 total out of that, that there would be a difference of opinion about whether everything has been covered.
Oh, sure.
And so there may be a suggestion that somebody had a good idea that didn't want to say that for everybody's own protection. We're doing the absolute best we can with the information that's been brought to us to this point. I'm satisfied that everything you've heard today includes all that, not yet, to my knowledge, have they seen the Pafford redo document? The Chiefs
Yes,
Committee.
Yes, the one that was sent out, like, I think you received late Wednesday night. and then had a
We've
work
still got
session. I sent
time
that.
from today until the 15th to hear more
I think they need
from
to
our
see it.
Chiefs Committee.
I think they need to see this one right now.
I tend to agree with you. And we've got time, if we can get a meeting with those guys, and one more opportunity.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we take what we discussed today, put in paper, send it to Pafford, let them reply, know where we're at. Then we can send it out to all the
We're not
chiefs.
gonna get
There's
those.
no need, and I don't think in sending it all to the chiefs, because we ain't got anything
Already
yet.
sent it to the chief.
Craig can give a timeline. I just said, we're gonna get it to you by
No, he said
Wednesday,
he
and we need it
hadn't
back
sent
your,
this
by
latest
Monday,
one.
man. I
Yeah,
think
it is.
The
Brian
one-
sent it out Thursday and Friday. The one
this
we got
weekend.
right now has
Right.
gone to all the
What?
chiefs.
This one has
Yeah.
not
Red
been
line?
sent to the chief.
This one has not
has
been
not
changed.
Our change.
They have not seen it.
That we just changed today.
Right, right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but the one Pafford sent us last week.
I know
They
that,
got me.
but I know that.
I was just saying, when we wait, send the next one to the chiefs, the document that we're looking to
If you can
approve.
get it before the 15th and have a meeting.
For me, and where I'm at, is we're not gonna be able to send this to Pafford, get their stuff back, and then set up a meeting with the chiefs, and then before the
Right,
15th.
that's what I'm saying.
I would say, set up a meeting, do our response to their contract, have a meeting with the chiefs, and pretty much tell them what we've got.
This is what
This,
what we got.
down, they cannot stand, and it also passes our test, then we would have to revisit that with Pafford. But I think with mine, it's the not knowing more than it is, I mean,
And
at this
and-
point, they understand
And
that
the
we're not.
non-trusting side.
Yep,
They don't
right.
trust it.
Right, and they wanna be in the loop,
Yep.
feel like they were, and I think it's important, just what you're saying, if we have to move this to our 28th work session.
Well, we can send Keith our changes next day or two.
Yep,
Now,
yep.
to Jay's point, if Pafford says, you've got 8 things that you won't change, we can tell you right now, 4 of them are not gonna change. Because
Well, we've done all we can do then.
And at that point, stay where you're at. We got you're under that contract till Christmas.
I know,
You
but I mean, we gotta do something, so might as well,
Yeah.
you know, we're here, we might as
Yeah,
well
you're
finish.
right.
And by the way, Miss Laura's got it on her calendar tickled, I've got it on mine. We have got to let AMR know officially by May 1. I didn't think we'd be here, to be honest with you. I didn't think we'd ever have to worry about notifying AMR of anything. But we've got an officially until done or out under the current contract.
If that current contract's any good.
Correct.
Hey, what was the time response on the wreck on 43 yesterday?
It's pretty good, I think. Well, but again, yeah, I mean, here's why the response of the ambulances I don't think was as critical, because of the extrication side of it took a while.
Yeah,
So I mean,
got you.
there was aid given to them pretty quick. It's just,
Thing that I think we need to add to the contract is, we're gonna have this review period. Well, in order for them to come to us and tell us, hey, we're not making enough, we need to know all their calls. So we need a lot of private calls too.
you're talking about non-emergency.
Non-emergency, yeah.
Transfers.
Right. Transfers, yeah.
In Rankin
Because-
County,
Yeah,
because
here.
they got Madison and
Yeah,
others
yeah.
too.
Well, we could care less about
I know,
it,
but I don't want to say all your calls.
Because you're transport,
Yeah.
non-emergency and emergency.
Yes, sir.
So we need
Because
to
the
be able to
non-emergency is
compare.
gonna make their money.
Yeah. So if they come back to us and say, we need a subsidy of 200,000, I wanna know exactly how many calls they had. Cause
Both
really,
sides.
we need that too.
I
We
mean,
need
transports.
that. Well, yeah, that's what I mean.
But, I mean, no, but that's.
That's where their money
That's where the
is.
money's
So
at.
It's
that's
the
what
same
we
language
need.
we're
Yeah,
talking,
we
just
need
don't
that
use the right
added.
word.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
to your
that's what
point,
pays their check.
you want to
I
be
mean-
able to, why do you need more money? We're looking at your BLS
Justify it.
transfers.
Yeah.
We're looking at your numbers and they look pretty
And again,
healthy.
Yeah.
the call, it doesn't need to be, and the wording, I guess, is also important from your standpoint, Craig, is we're looking at calls.
Right.
Because those are two
Right.
really
Correct.
different numbers.
Yeah, we have to have them report that because we're not going to have a way to
That's right.
identify.
Because
Yeah.
it all revolves around number of transports.
Don't y'all think that's fair?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fair.
Court has until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning to get whatever comments you want back to Craig, so he can wrap it up and get it to him.
I think we're done.
I think about
You
9
said-
o'clock
You
tomorrow
said next
morning.
day or two, you need to get your comments back to Craig on.
No, I was talking about Craig to get it all.
The most vulnerable part of the county is where you're at, so if you're happy, I'm happy. Puckett is probably the,
Right.
Brothers,
Well, we just don't know. That could be the case, but if
Right.
Pafford ends up at Simpson,
well, then it's
Back
fine.
Mr. Bob is,
And again-
Mr. Bob is no longer complaining about ambulance
Well,
service.
Madison's contract helped me a lot.
Well,
Absolutely.
Got
Have-
anything in
have-
there you want
have-
to?
No, having those trucks in Canton,
And if they get Simpson, well,
Yep.
it's
that's a better
gonna
deal
help them
than-
all the way around, yeah,
Yeah.
well, for Puckett, for sure.
Sure.
So does anybody
Sure.
have
Me too.
anything y'all wanna add,
Absolutely.
change on this?
Well, yeah, Simpson's a huge.
Daniel, you got anything you wanna add or change?
As long as we get, I think we just do like we said, run it by them, let them feel like they're a part. I don't, and this is what we got, and about the best we're
Well,
gonna
now,
do.
what we're asking to be put in contract is exactly what they want. And before getting them involved, let's find out Pafford's response
Yeah.
first. But hopefully we can get this, they all agree to all this and we're ready to go.
Because
15.
for zero subsidy, it's a phenomenal deal.
Yep, I think so.
I make a motion we adjourn,
Recess to the
Recess.
15th.
recess to the
Recess.
15th, excuse me.
Motion by Mr. Marr to recess to the 15th, second by Mr. Morrison. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay.
My intention would be that this goes out to Pafford today. Does somebody have a problem with that?
Well, that'd be good if you can get it that quick.
Got nothing else to